You are welcome here as you are. If you are visiting, I hope you will take time to get to know us. Welcome to a time of connection. Welcome to the space made sacred by your presence.
Good morning. I had a Santa Claus suit somewhere in my stuff, but I couldn't find it, so I just went out and bought this cheap shirt to sort of look like a country Santa Claus without the beard. 'Tis the season. Welcome all to this time. We gather to be about the work of life, of considering those big questions, those concerns, those issues that face us. We come here, I hope, in a spirit of love, to be open to ideas that can bless us and challenge us. Each of us come here with our own story. And basically it's all about stories. Sharing our stories, learning stories, and finding the true meanings in life within those stories. It's called the theology of biography. And it's something that's really relevant to all of us, I think, in our lives, especially in this season of lightness and brightness and happiness. We know that's all there is, right? No downtimes, no problems, no issues. In this room, we look at the truth, know that not to be frightened of it, but to embrace it as a learning tool for us to be greater, fuller human beings. We light the chalice, a symbol of light and hope and goodness. Welcome to this time.
Now we'll have our stone ritual. There are 3 bowls, one back there, one here, and one upstairs. You're invited to place a pebble in one of these bowls for your personal joy or concern or an intention for the coming week. Now it's time for a meditation. Let's open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. I invite you to relax, get comfortable, close your eyes, and breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Relax. Breathe out. Give yourself love, kindness, and peace. Breathe in. Breathe out. Give yourself support, forgiveness, and peaceful thoughts. Breathe in. Breathe out. Think of the people around you. Send them loving, kind, and peaceful thoughts. Send them support and forgiveness. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Relax. May you be well. and have peace in the upcoming week. Namaste.
Where does the time go? It's December 7th. Most of us in this room grew up with that being a very significant holiday. And I would be neglectful if I didn't invite us to have a moment of silence in recognition of that event that impacted this country mightily. Some historians could argue that it introduced us to the modern age. But we could have that discussion about a lot of incidents in our history. So I invite you now for a moment or two to just give thought to those that were related to you or you've heard about or you know personally who were impacted mightily by the bombing of Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. Let us be in silence in community. Blessed be. December. Who made up this month? You've got winter in the northern hemisphere. You've got the winter festivals from the earth and pagan religions. You've got the Catholic and the Protestant and the Christian world putting Advent, which is a ceremonial and ritualistic occasion for us to be welcoming and looking forward to the Christ. No one knows when Jesus was born. They've got some speculation. And when I wrote these notes to myself, I thought, Christ's birthday. And that's how I believe it. Because Christ is a conjuring of an ideology to explain the ultimate human being who was actually a God. Now we can get into this old Unitarian and Universalist argument about Jesus and what he was and what he wasn't. But the truth is that he, Buddha, several other individuals in human history have influenced the flow of history, impacted our lives personally, because we're born in a culture, we're born in a story, and we have to build our story within that story. Now, we've got Kwanzaa, we've got Hanukkah, we've got Bodhi, when Buddha was enlightened. A cosmopolitan person, or a person who's really open to the religious persuasion and the spiritual gifts of humanity, have to take all of these into account in recognizing their religious journey, or organizing their religious journey, or crafting their spiritual understandings. Well, it goes back for me just basically into stories that we've created, our ancestors created. And it wasn't out of just a open imagination. It was based on where they were, when they were. The winter solstice is it the longest or the shortest day of the year? Shortest day of the year. Well, doesn't that have impact? I'm already going crazy by 7 o'clock. We wonder when morning is going to come, because I'm a natural morning person. So I want to spend some time with you this morning in a whole different way. Not talking about old, overused ideas about what Santa Claus is, or what Christmas is, or what Jesus isn't, or what the holidays are about. I want to tell you about two individuals. They're real individuals. And their story that I share with you is meant for you to listen up and see if there's ingredients in it that fit your story. Mary is the first one. Mary was born in the 1840s. She was born in Connecticut. Her family were rich merchants, and she was the youngest of about 8 children. Well, her family were really ambitious. They were the nouveau riche. of the 1840s with the new industrialization. And basically, they just killed the older kids. Several of them died from stress around the pressure that was put on them by the family to be achievers. Well, Mary was the baby. So Mary got away with not doing much of anything regimentally. She didn't go to the normal schools. They gave her books. They made sure she understood the fundamentals of reading and writing. And she went on a journey that she never ended until 89 years later, down in Texas. Well, Mary Charlotte Ward would marry 4 men. 2 of them were Universalist ministers. And she would tag along with them all over the country, even down into Alabama. One of her husbands went because he had tuberculosis. And they thought the turpentine forest would help out his condition. Well, it didn't. And by 43, she was a widow. 2 years later, she'd marry again to a Universalist minister. And he was a missionary. He went out and had meetings. And she stayed at home tending the flock and sometimes preaching. And there were a lot of times preaching. And she wrote books and she wrote poems. She wrote The White Christmas Tree in 1882. That was one of the earliest non-secular stories, songs about Christmas. Mary Charlotte Ward. She became a Guinness, a Webster, and a Billings. She would have no children, but somewhere along the way she picked up her niece and nephew, and they became her surrogate children. She ended up being the first Universalist woman ordained in Texas. Can you imagine in Texas in the 1890s? A little feisty woman. I've got a portrait of her that's just beautiful. She looks like a little imp. And she was in the women's suffrage movement. She was secretary and treasurer of the Texas Press Association. She didn't know she was a woman. She didn't care. And evidently the men that went along with her didn't either. So to me, she's one of those guiding lights that come through in darkness to say, women, you be what you need to be. But she did not grow out of nothing. She had a family that gave her support and encouragement and the freedom to study, to learn, to write. She ended up running newspapers in Texas. She had 2 newspapers. One of them was a daily. As a widow woman, she was remarkable. And she was a widow woman about 2/3 of her adult life. That's Mary. Now, Mary came from wealth. Mary came from the established Nouveau Riche of New England. Now, my other friend is James Luther Adams. So we got Mary and Jamie. Jamie was born in a small town in Washington State. His daddy was a farmer and part-time Primitive Brethren preacher. Now, if he was anything, he was not of the rich. He was a poor boy. But somehow, he was born in the 1880s. Somehow, he got an education in a cheap elementary school and got a scholarship to Minnesota, University of Minnesota. Well, that was after he had earned a job on the Continental Railroad and worked as a railroad man for about 10 years. Then he put himself into undergraduate school, and somehow he got a scholarship and an opportunity to go to Harvard University. By 1937, he was a Unitarian minister, serving in churches in New England, hobnobbing with all those great elite Unitarians in New England, and there were a bunch of them. They were real snobs too, let me tell you. But Jimmy, he worked his magic because he had a core. He came from a fundamentalist to a secular humanist to a liberal Christian by the time he died. And I had the good fortune of sitting with him many times, not many times, at least 3 times, when he would come to Unitarian Universalist gatherings in my early years in the 70s and 80s because he didn't die until 1992. And James Luther Adams was a sweet man. And everybody wanted to sit around him and hear him talk about what it means to be a Unitarian. And he came up with a unique concept that I think is a powerful theology. He said the greatest gift and the greatest freedom of people is the right to choose what they give themselves to. Volunteerism. To be a volunteer is the greatest freedom in the world. Now you think about that. You think about the ideals of democracy, popular rule. You think about that over against kings and dictators and autocrats. It's a precious thing. So basically, James Luther Adams said to the world, the sacred and the divine is found in people organizing together around ideas that serve the good. A little complicated, though. God is love. All right, we'll take that one. God's a verb, not a noun. It's an energy that passes between one another when we do good, when we grieve, when we share humbly what we have, when we do what we did this morning, recognizing people's random acts of kindness. It's all of a package, and it's all of what this congregation and Unitarian Universalist congregations hope to be, aspire to be. Not stories about Santa Claus, an ancient saint of the Catholic Church. Not Buddha, who was a great teacher, who claimed nothing about immortality. And I would say even Jesus, who said he was the Son of Man, which basically meant he was Son of Life. And he was here to teach us that love conquers all, but it's tough. And you're going to die for it. But that's just death. Life goes beyond death into the acts of kindness, the good you gave, the treatment you were able to do. And even if you didn't do as well as you could have, there's a grace there. It ain't over till it's over. It ain't over till it's over. It's beyond magic. It's around reason. Magic says, well, you were just saved and you're a son of a bitch. No, that's not it. You blew your life being SOB. You missed out on being full and whole and complete. And that's what grace brings to you in a spiritual gift of recognition. So Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. May all that you need you receive out of these holidays, but don't lay expectations on yourself to have some kind of magical event on Sunday morning, on Christmas morning. I lived through that, did you? I never saw Santa Claus. But you know my mom and daddy did. Amen. Relationships, family, community. The holy is in the midst of all of that. That energy that we share in those situations offer redemption and salvation. And I'm not just playing with theological words, I'm talking of new meaning of these words. Because we've been conditioned to believe this and that by the dominant culture, which is all about power and control. The question before us is freedom possible and community available. I think it is. I hope you do too. Our chalice will now be extinguished. Take the light with you. You are the light of the world. The world is expecting good of you. But take care of yourself too. Get a nap. Eat too much chocolate. Amen.